This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Shalom Aleichem, good morning. Welcome to our viewers on Torah Anytime as well. We have a jam-packed shir, Imir Tzeh Hashem. We have to speak about a lot of different inyanim because our next shir is only on Bet Cheshvan Imir Tzeh Hashem. That's for Parshas Noach. So we have to speak about Parshas Vayelech, this coming Shabbos, and Yom Kippur, and Sukkos, and Haazinu, VeZos HaBeracha, and Parshas Bereishis. So a little taste of everything. Imir Tzeh Hashem.
Don't go too fast.
What's that?
Don't go too fast.
We have a lot to. Next shir is Beis Cheshvan. So that's Parshas Noach. So we're not going to have, I think, 3 weeks. We're not going to have one. Before we start, I just want to make sure to invite all of you, and anybody who's listening, to the special annual all-night shir that I think I've been giving for, 8, 9, maybe 10 years. Hoshana Rabbah, which is going to be this year. Sunday night, Kaf Tishrei, in the Bnei Yeshiva's Shul, the end of Nachal Noam. We go from 11:30 p.m. all the way to Nets. 6 hours and change, straight, no break, with a ton of food. Don't worry, a ton of food, cholent and cakes and everything, with challenging riddles, carrying some serious prizes, money and other wild cases in halacha and inspiring stories. It's more than a 6 hour straight shir. It's a lot of fun, and I look forward to it the entire year. It's the funnest day of the year. What's that? Whoever does the tikkun, tavo alechem bracha. Who's ever not done tikkun, there's a different type of tikkun. Whatever works. Mitzvah Hashem will mention at the end of the shir as well to remind everybody. So we're starting. I want to dedicate the shir for the Atzlacha Av Ben Zion Ben Dus. Him and his family should experience, open, and reveal Siyata Dishmaya and Agmar Chasima Toiva to him and to all of us. Easy question. What's the last mitzvah in the Torah? Last mitzvah. Could be it has to do with our parsha. Hakel. Could be some. Right, Sefer Torah. Sheneima. That's what most people answer. The last mitzvah, the final Taryag mitzvah, 613th mitzvah, and it's true according to the Chinuch and many other mitzvahs. Write for yourself a Sefer Torah, but the Rambam doesn't agree, and that's the Chiddush here. The Rambam in his Lo Yisaseh, the count of the negative commandments, mitzvah Kuf Tzadi Daled 194. He brings a pasuk from next week's parsha, Parshas Haazinu. Don't drink yain nesech. The pasuk says, "Asher chelas v'chem uyechelu yishtu yain nesicham," and the Gemara darshins in Avodah Zorah Chavtes Amud Beis. That refers, don't drink yain nesech. That's a mitzvah from the Torah, and that comes after Parshas Vayelech. So that, according to the Rambam, is the last mitzvah on the Taryag. But most those who count the mitzvahs will count our pasuk, write for yourself the Torah as the 613th mitzvah. So you did. You wrote a Sefer Torah. Now there's a new issue called don't erase anything from the Torah. Can there be that a person doesn't have an eraser? He didn't spill any whiteout or anything on the Torah, and yet he is charged for erasing a Sefer Torah?
If you write maybe on a cloth that is not good, then it will just erase over time.
So then it's a shame. But he didn't erase it. It's b'derech grama. He erased from the Sefer Torah even though he didn't erase anything.
Cut it out.
He didn't cut and he didn't erase, and we'll tell him you erased the Sefer Torah. How can that be? What about a mamzer? In your Edea Siman Reish Pei Aleph, I believe there's an opinion that a mamzer is not allowed to write a Sefer Torah. Not everybody agrees. But he's not allowed to write a Sefer Torah. But if he does, so maybe you'll say, why did you do it? But he didn't erase a Sefer Torah. This person didn't erase, and yet will say, you erased Sefer Torah. So you wrote Shem Hashem without Kavanah, but you didn't erase. There was no Shem Hashem with Kavanah to erase.
You wrote it with invisible ink.
He wrote in invisible ink, so you don't see any Hashem's name, so you didn't erase anything.
The kind that they use in the hospital.
The kind that it's erased a day later. That's b'derech grama. A big chiddush. Minchas chinuch.
He denies the Torah.
So he's a big Rasha. Denies the Torah is a Rasha. He didn't erase anything. The Torah is right in front of us. Minchas Chinuch wants to say that if you have the word Elokim and you change the vowels, the Nikud, under the letter Aleph, you change it to Patach, and instead of now it's Alokim or Al, instead of the word Aleph Lamed, which is Hashem's name, you change it into Al. Oh, that's erasing Hashem's name. It used to be Kel, with an Aleph. Kel. You made it into Al, so you erased Hashem's name. But he says you don't get Malchus for that. Baruch Hashem. But it is considered erasing Hashem's name. The big Chiddush. I'm sorry? Let's say you did. Let's say you did. Kisvu lachem es hashira azois. Write for yourselves a Sefer Torah. Anything missing in the way I started the pasuk? Kisvu lachem es hashira azois. Write for yourselves this Sefer Torah. Any problem the way I started this pasuk? Ve'ata. Why did you need it? What did you gain by saying Ve'ata? And now, write for yourselves Sefer Torah. Right now? How about in 5 minutes from now? Kisvu lachem. The mitzvah says, write for yourselves a Sefer Torah. What did you gain by saying and now? Ve'ata kisvu lachem Sefer Torah. Shalav, the Apirion. Who's the Apirion? The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, Reb Shlomo Ganfried, wrote a Sefer on the Torah. It's called Apirion. Gevaldik. He brings a Gemara in Gittin Tzaf Samech. The Gemara says, Divrei Torah shebichsav, you have to write. Torah shebe'al peh, you can't write. That's why the pasuk says, Kisvu lachem es hashira azos. And then the pasuk says, Sima befiem, put it in their mouth. In other words, Torah shebe'al peh that comes to explain Torah shebichsav, you don't write that. But Rebbe saw that there's a deterioration of generations and people are starting to forget Divrei Torah, and therefore he applied a pasuk in Tehillim, Es la'asos la'Hashem. Sometimes you have to nullify the Torah to uphold the Torah. So now you're allowed to write it. That's why the pasuk says, Ve'ata, when the Kodesh Baruch Hu gave the Torah, Ve'ata, now, kisvu lachem, Torah shebichsav, right. Torah shebe'al peh, sima befiem. But there will be a time that even the Torah shebe'al peh, you're going to have to write. Right now, Ve'ata, for about 1,000 years until this came about, until Rebbe said you have to write Torah shebe'al peh, Ve'ata, and now, kisvu lachem es hashira azois, Torah shebichsav, you can write. But now Torah shebe'al peh, sima befiem. But there will be a time that this will not apply, and Torah shebe'al peh you can write as well. That's why the pasuk adds the as if superfluous word and writes ve'ata. Halachic shayla. Reuven wrote a Sefer Torah. He was zeichet to fulfill this mitzvah according to the chinuch, the last mitzvah, Taryag. The right thing to do is not to give it to the shul. The right thing to do is to deposit it by the shul, to lend it to the shul, because many opinions say if you give it to the shul, you actually lose the mitzvah. And that's why most people who give a shul, who give a Sefer Torah to the shul, they donate it to the shul. It's yours, but it really is mine. You can use it. It's mine. I'm lending it to you. That's what Reuven did, and that's the right thing to do. Unfortunately, major fire, the whole shul burnt out, including the Sefer Torah. Very smart Gabayim. Put all kinds of ads in the papers in all kinds of places, and Baruch Hashem, they're able to raise a lot of money to build up the shul much nicer than what is before, and they raise money for another Sefer Torah. Our Sefer Torah was burnt! Shh. People are moved when they hear that, and rightfully so. And people donated a lot of money. Ad kana kofe aleph. What happened to kofe beis? Comes over and says, whoa, wait a second. Why did people give you money for a new Sefer Torah? Because they heard, my Sefer Torah was burned, not yours. It's not your Sefer Torah, it's mine. And therefore all the money that they gave you, or the Sefer Torah that you acquired with this money, is actually mine. Come the Gabayim, and Reuven to Adin Torah, in front of the Dayanim Chashuvim, sitting in Mayam Loyez. And they want to know, who did this money belong to? Does it belong to Reuven, the owner of Sefer Torah, that because of him, you were able to raise money? And Reuven claims, you know what you did? Oises choira beparasto shel chavayro. Mishnah in Bava Metzia Gimel. You're doing business with my cow. In other words, you took my car and you're making money on me. I'm lending you something and you're making money from what I lent you. Who gave you permission? It's mine. The Gabayim says, what are you talking about? People gave money to our shul because they wanted us to have a Sefer Torah. Yeah, but you advertised that my Sefer Torah was burnt, and because of that they gave you money. Who's right?
The shul is the shul.
The shul claims we are shoyim mechinam. Are they shoyim mechinam?
No, because
Doesn't have to pay.
They're holding for free.
Doesn't the shul have a status of a shoyel, a borrower? And as such, he is chayav in everything, even an oinus. Obviously, the fire was an oinus. We're not blaming anyone. No negligence. It was oinus, fine. But a shoyel is chayav in even an oinus.
It's different. In show, you go to someone and you ask them, can I borrow such and such a thing from you? But here, the person, the owner at all, went and deposited in the
And the shul was very happy about it. And maybe the shul advertised before, if you have a Sefer Torah, we need a Sefer Torah. Obviously, they need it because they use it. I'm sorry? You're close. Shailas Etshuvas Chelkas Yankiv Rabbi Yaakov Breish Zatzal. He deals with in Choshen Mishpat Simin Chaf Vav, and he says normally we view the shoyel as the person who has all the hana, and therefore if something happens he's responsible, even oinus. But here, Reuven, don't tell us that they are the shoyel and you're the person who gave them whatever they wanted. You also have hana from this. You're enjoying the fact that the Sefer Torah is in a distinguished, honorable place, guarded place, and they're using it. And every so often you get an aliyah for your Sefer Torah. So you're using it. When you also use it, we don't say that the shoyel is chayav in everything. And therefore the shoyel is chayav in nothing. And he says the shul is exempt. Because you are also, similar to what you're saying, you are also benefiting from that thing which you lent them. Mimele, it's not considered that they're chayav, and he says it's also not considered it's not considered that they are doing business with your cow, or with your assets, because when do we apply that? The Rambam says in Schirus Perek Aleph Halacha Vav, when there are dinei v'onsin, and if something would have happened, he owes everything. Since here we're saying they don't owe anything, we also don't say they're doing business with your assets, and therefore, like you said, the shul doesn't have to pay anything. Reuven's lost. We're very sorry for him. Mitzvah Hashem, he'll be zoiche to do this mitzvah again.
Can I ask you if it was stolen of the same halacha, right?
If it was stolen, the same halacha. Because the shoyel, the borrower, is considered a shoyel, a borrower who's chayav for everything, if he is the only one benefiting from this item. But the guy who owns this also benefits from it. They will be exempt.
But if Reuven gave it to Sefer Torah from another country, someone in the States.
Oh, so that he doesn't deal with that. When I read his tshuva, I was thinking about it. What if Reuven donated it to a shul in a different town, in a different country, and he never enjoys it? But I think he does enjoy saying, oh, you know, that I give shuls all over the world. I donate Sifrei Torah. And it's still guarded, and it's in a very honorable place, and there's some kind of a benefit to him as well. It could be that we'll apply what he says even in a case like that. There was a Maaseh that came.
Did the first guy lose his mitzvah by the Sefer Torah? Was he not right?
If it's no longer here, yeah, unfortunately. But it's just going to propel him mitzvah to action to write another sefer. There was a Maaseh in the time of Rabbi Akiva Eiger. This guy found a Sefer Torah in the field. Disgrace, like mamish in the middle of the field. And they didn't know who wrote it. Shulchan Aruch Yoredeh, Siman Reish Pei Aleph Seif Aleph says, if it's a goy that wrote the Sefer Torah, you have to put it in Gniza. If it's a heretic, what do you have to do with it? Burn it. And if it's a Yid, it's kosher. But they didn't know. They found a Sefer Torah in the middle of the field. What do? They went to Rabbi Akiva Eiger. Brilliant what he said to them. He said, you know, Minhag Yisrael is that when you do Achnas Sefer Torah, many of you participated in Achnas Sefer Torah in the past. Before you actually do the whole party, you come to the house of the person who's writing the Sefer Torah, and he honors a lot of people to write the last letter. So if you look at the last column of the Sefer Torah, it's not going to be so pretty. The way you write is different than the way I write, different than the way he writes. If it's a goy who wrote it, or a computer, for that matter, not in the time of Big Yair, it's going to be perfect, and it's going to match the previous columns. But look at the last column. And if it's not so nice, that's a proof that Yidden wrote it. And it'll be kosher. Where is this alluded to in the Torah? This pasuk that we're saying. Ve'ata kisvu lachem es hashira hazos. Why lishon rabim? Why in the plural? Ve'ata ksov lecha. You should write for yourself a Sefer Torah. It's a mitzvah for you to write a Sefer Torah. No. Kisvu. All of you guys should participate and try to be involved. And then the pasuk continues and says, Leman tihiyeli le'ed b'vnei Yisrael. This will be a testimony to me. This will be a witness. That it's Bnei Yisrael who wrote it, and not a goy and not a mean. Geraldik. No. The Emes was introduced much later to a Maaseh that came to him, which with his wisdom, he used this Minhag Yisrael to decide what it is. So, I think Reb Shlomo of Boyan, he used this pasuk to say, this fits very well, the Maaseh of Givei. Ve'ata kisvu lachem es hashira hazois. Sefer Torah. Shira. Twice we find in Chazal, Eruvin Yud Gimel Amud Beis, Gitin Vav Amud Beis, Elu v'elu divrei Elokim Chaim. How is this possible? You hear two different opposing opinions. Machloikes. Kosher! Treif. Tameh! Tohu. Pasul! No, lechatchila is no problem. What is it? How can you say Elu v'elu both? Divrei Elokim Chaim. It doesn't sound right. Lichoreh, there can only be one emes. How does it work? Comes the Baal Torah Tmima in the Sefer Baruch She'amar, and he says, Gewaldig idea. You go hear the Philharmonic, an orchestra, a choir. This guy has a voice that sounds like this. And this guy's very deep for it. Independently, they don't sound too good. It doesn't sound so great. When they all join together, and they each one with his instrument, each one with his voice, and they're doing it for one cause. Wow. Gewaldig, it's uplifting to listen to them. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes to Beis Midrash, and hears you arguing, saying, no, it's kosher, no, it's treif. But we're all doing it for the same cause. To increase Torah glory. To delve in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's sweet and sacred Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, this is a Philharmonic. This is an orchestra, this is beautiful choir. I can't say nothing's more spectacular in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in the ears of HaKadosh Baruch Hu than that. And therefore, Elu va'elu, both, when you're doing it for the same cause, Divrei Elokim Chaim. And I think this Baruch She'amar is very easy to understand based on the Arizal, because the Arizal says, Ba'olam hazeh, halacha is like Beis Hillel. But Ba'olam haba, halacha like Beis Shammai. How is it possible? You see, that's the truth. Elu va'elu, Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, Divrei Elokim Chaim.
Different times.
At different times, but it's one Torah. How is it possible? Because the Kodesh Baruch Hu, for whatever reason, Eruvin Yud Gimel, the Gemara says over there, because of the humility of Beis Hillel, halacha is like them. Not because they're right. Abbas Kol came out from Shemaim and said, because they always represent the other opinion, Beis Shammai's opinion, you know what, halacha is like you. It doesn't say because they're right. It says because of their anava. But Beis Shammai also right. Elu va'elu divrei Elokim Chaim. When you're fighting for the honor of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's the most beautiful sound. That's the most beautiful music. That's an orchestra. It's the most gorgeous choir in the ears of Ribbonei Shel Olam. The pasuk in the Pasha says, "Ki lo tishakach mipi zaroi," avtacha. A promise, Torah will never be forgotten. However, there is a Gemara in Shabbos, Kuf Lamedches Amud Beis, Asida Torah shetishtakach miYisrael. Torah will be forgotten from Klal Yisrael. Terrible. Why is that? Why will Torah be forgotten? Comes Achsam Sofer, and he says, "B'derech Sachus," humorously, but some Sofer speaks, you have to listen, and he brings this from his Rebbe, from the Hafla. And he says, you know why Torah has to be forgotten? Because we have to fix the sin of Sinas Chinam. Sinas Chinam, destroyed Beis Midrash, and it's 1957 years that we don't have Beis Midrash. Because of it, we have to fix it. How do you fix it? We have a technical problem. There's Talmidei Chachamim, and they're ignoramuses. And in Psochim Memtes Amud Beis, the Gemara says, the hatred that ignoramuses have towards Talmidei Chachamim is greater than the hatred that the nations have towards us. So how are you going to fix it? If Torah will be forgotten, there are not going to be any more Talmidei Chachamim. Everybody's going to be ignoramus, maybe nobody's going to hate each other. The ignoramuses hate Talmidei Chachamim, but if everybody is demoted to an ignoramus, nobody's hating each other, they love each other. It's some sefer, so we're allowed to say it, but it's still a little... So I think maybe for a different shot. Different direction altogether. Exactly the opposite after, obviously. We have to fix Sinas Chinam. I have another Eitzah. Spread Avas Chinam. How do you do that? You make everybody a Talmid Chochem. The reverse. What do you have to go like Sof Sofer? Make everybody an Am Haaretz? Chas v'sholom. The Pasuk says, Ki lo sishakach mipi zaroi. It will not be forgotten from his seed. So let's make everybody a Talmid Chochem. That's what the Gemara says. The Gemara says, Asida Torah shetishtachach mi Yisrael. What is the word tishkach in Aramaic? Found! You're going to find Torah in everybody in Klal Yisrael. It's exactly the opposite. The Torah predicts exactly what the Gemara predicts what the Torah says. It will never be forgotten. The opposite. Everybody is going to be a level of Talmid Chochem in Melech. There's not going to be any hatred. The Talmid Chochem don't hate each other. They love each other. And in fact, the Gemara in Yerushalmi, in Babasa, Perek Ches, Halacha Beis, uses the language, Man du lai, one who toils in Torah, whom we shakach kula. He will find all the secrets and all the reasonings in Torah. So it's exactly the opposite. Asida Torah shetishtachach miYisrael, Torah will be found in everyone in Klal Yisrael. B'meila, then we will fix the sin of Zinas Chinet because everybody is going to love each other. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe. Kodesh Baruch Hu says to Moshe, Incha shochev mavosecha. You're going to die. V'kama am hazeh v'zana, and this nation is going to go sour. And they're going to go after Acharei Elohei Nechar Haaretz, foreign gods. Comes Medrash Talpios and says, Elohei Nechar, foreign gods, Gematria 316. And that is the Gematria of what word? Yeshu. Machshemoi v'zichroi. The Torah predicts Yeshu. Elohei Nechar, foreign gods 316. That's the Gematria of Yeshu. The Torah predicts some people, Chas v'sholom, will deviate, go sour. So this is already in the Torah because Leikamidei, the Lord Mize Beorasha, there's nothing that's not hinted to in the Torah. Elohei Nechar 316. Yeshu 316. So the Pasuk says, and this applies to that we're moving from Vayelech to VeZos HaBeracha as well. The Pasuk says Moshe will die, and Moshe in fact dies in VeZos HaBeracha. Easy question. What is his yahrzeit? When did he die? What date? Zayin Adar. That's right. One answer out of 9. We find 9 different opinions. Everybody knows. Zayin Adar, that's the yahrzeit. Chevek Kadisha fast on that day, right? Zayin Adar. However, 9 different opinions when he actually died. Ibn Ezra, in Dvarim, Perek Aleph, Pasuk Beis, brings an opinion that he actually died Aleph Shvat, a month and a week before. The Ibn Ezra rejects this. But there is an opinion, Aleph Shvat. Yalkut Shimoni, Zayin Shvat, 1 month before what we're familiar with, Zayin Adar. Esther Rabbah, in the Ralbag, in Parashas Sukkos, brings it and holds like this, Aleph Adar, the first of Adar. Kaftor Averach, one of Rishonim, Vav Adar. The normal date that we know is Zayin Adar, and that appears in Maseches Megillah Yud Gimel Amud Beis, and in Soita Yud Beis Amud Beis, and more places in Chazal. And there's a Machloikes Tanaim whether it was a Shana Pshuta or a leap year. Great. 6th and 7th opinions, either 8th or the 9th of Adar. He started dying. Some Achronim say he started dying on the 7th of Adar, as we're familiar. But Lemaise, he only expired on the 8th or on the 9th of Adar, and with that they explain an answer which is lichora very troublesome. Chazal say Moshe Rabbeinu wrote 13 Sifrei Torah on the day he died. 13 Sifrei Torah. Today, a regular scribe, how long does it take him to write a Sefer Torah? About a year. He wrote 13 on the day he died. But what day was it? What day of the week? Shabbos. You're writing Sefer Torah on Shabbos and not one? 13 of them. So if he started dying on the 7th, but Lemaise only on the 8th and 9th is when either on the 8th or on the 9th, so then he has plenty of time, Sunday and half of Monday, to write the Sefer Torah. 8th opinion.
So it was not good if he had the strength to write Sefer Torah. But
he is dying, and compared to how strong he was 2 days ago, he probably could have written 26 Sefer Torah, now only 13. Avas Yoinasan, which is Rabbi Yonasan Naibshitz in Pasha Zachor, based on a Yerushalmi, he brings Zayin Adar Sheni. It was a leap year, and he died on Zayin Adar, but not the first one, the second one. And the 9th opinion, Achidish, 27th of Nisan. So we're going a month and 20 days later. There is an opinion in Chazal that Moshe Rabbeinu was born on the 27th of Nisan, Chav Zayin Nisan. And since HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Memale Shnoizam Shel Tzadikim Miyom Layom, a tzaddik dies on the day that he was born, if he was born on Chaf Zayin Nisan, he must have died also on Chaf Zayin Nisan. Not only are there different opinions, 9 of them, but the date, there are also different opinions about exactly when did he die. According to the Zohar HaKodesh, it was the time of Mincha, Shabbos Kodesh, and that is why we say Tzidkascha on Shabbos. Some do not say Good Shabbos after the time of Mincha for that reason. It's time of mourning. David HaMelech died there. Moshe Rabbeinu, Zohar HaKodesh. The Tashbetz Koton, Oish Taf Memvav, he brings based on Kabbalah. It was a process, and he started dying on Erev Shabbos and Shabbos. So it wasn't that the whole thing took place in Mincha on Shabbos. Said the Hadoros brings, it was a Wednesday. According to that, Bichlal, we don't have a Shaila. How can you write all the Sifrei Torah? But we have 3 different opinions. Now listen to a psukim that sound very, very strange. V'chara api vo bayom hahu. Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to be very angry with Klal Yisrael. V'azavtim, I will leave them. Ve'istarti fonai mehem. I will look elsewhere. Klal Yisrael is here. I'm not looking. I'm hiding away. Vayelech umetzau raois, rabois, v'tzorois. All kinds of trouble because the Kodesh Baruch Hu is hidden. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu turns away from us, we understand what the consequences are. Ve'amar, so Klal Yisrael says, Bayom hahu, halo al ki en kelokai bekirbi. It's because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not with me. Metzauni haraos ele. That's why all these troubles came. Continues the pasuk says, Va'anoichi, haster astir panai bayom hahu. I will conceal my face. Why? Al kol hara asher asa. Because they turned to other gods. Asks the Ksav ve'HaKabbalah. Well, wait a second. The first one I understand. The pasuk says, "Ve'istarti panai mehem." I will hide away from them. Then when Klal Yisrael says, "Oh, I got to do tshuva," you know why this happened? Al ki en Elokai bekirbi, because the Kodesh Baruch Hu wasn't with me. I got to come back to Kodesh Baruch Hu. So the result of that is their reward is haster astir panai bayoim hahu. So Kodesh Baruch Hu says, "Oh yeah, you doing tshuva? Bye bye, I'm going away." What's going on with that? And how come? The first one it says, Ve'istarti panai, I will hide my face, mehem, from them. The second time it says, Haster astir panai, from whom? Bayom hahu, that day, it doesn't say from whom. What's going on here? Says the Ksav ve'HaKabbalah, exactly the opposite of what we normally understand when we read these psukim. The first time around, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I will hide myself from them, because they went off the derech. But when Klal Yisrael say, we do tshuva. Al ki en Elokai bekirbi, because I wasn't with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. So then the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, you know what I'm going to do? And that day, when they do tshuva, haster astir panai, from what? From the sins. I'm no longer going to look at the sins. I will accept the tshuva, even though the tshuva is not really the best type of tshuva. Now you're doing it because you have all kinds of trouble. Now you realize you got to do tshuva. L'choira, this tshuva should not have been accepted. But the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, and yet people come back to me, I accept their tshuva. And I will hide away my face from the sins, and I'm no longer going to look at their iniquities. As the pasuk in Tehillim says, David HaMelech requested, Haster panecha mechata, I don't look at my sins. V'chol avonosai meche, erase all my sins. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I will accept the tshuva, and I will erase all your sins. Why? Because people are coming back to me, even though the highest level of tshuva is to do tshuva when everything is great. And everything is working, and yet, Kodesh Baruch Hu, I want to return. When you're in trouble, deep down under, and you look, Kodesh Baruch Hu, why should Kodesh Baruch Hu accept it? And Kodesh Baruch Hu says, yes, and I'm no longer going to look at your sins. How encouraging is this? Aksav ve'Kabbalah. Hi. We're moving to Yom Kippur. Psochim Samech Amud Beis. We learn a new mitzvah. Very difficult one. Very hard to do. But what can we do? Shulchan Aruch says something in Taf Reish Daled, and we are obligated to perform it. The pasuk says, "Ve'im yisemes nafsho seichem batish'al lachodesh." Afflict your souls on the 9th. And Chazal say, "What are you talking about? The 9th? We fast on the 10th." No, but this comes to tell you, anyone who is eating and drinking on the 9th, it is counted as if he fasted on the 9th and the 10th. So what can you do? You have to eat on the 9th of the... I know it's difficult. Everybody wants to fast 2 days. Well, Kodesh Baruch Hu says you have to eat. It's a mitzvah. Great. It's a mitzvah. So why don't you say a bracha? Asher kichanu mitzvah yisavetzivanu, to eat on the 9th of Tishrei. No bracha. Why is there no bracha?
There's no shiur. There's no shiur. No.
So first of all, give me a shiur. Tell me what a shiur is. Tell me kazait and up. And even not. if you eat a mezoinus, a moitzi, a gefen, she'akol, whatever it is, one crumb, do you have to say a bracha? Not a bracha achoina, bracha rishoina. So why not say a bracha for what? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, eat and drink. So as soon as you eat and drink, and if you're a small person and only need very little, so you're going to eat and drink very little. You just did a mitzvah. Tzedakah, there's a different reason and many other reasons, but the famous Rashba says, a mitzvah that depends on somebody else, you can't say a bracha. You go to the ani, and you give him your 20 agorot, and you say, here, this is for you. He says, what? 20 agorot? Keep them. So you wanted to say the bracha. You went to the mikveh 3 times. You put a shtaimer on the galter and you say, Asher kichar mitzvot tzivah lotes tzedakah, and you give it to him and the ani rejects it. It's a bracha levatala. Any mitzvah which is dependent on others, your father says, give me a glass, give me something to drink. And you run to your father and you give him, say, yeah, no, I don't want to drink anymore. Bracha levatala, why you say a bracha? So the mitzvah is dependent on somebody else, you cannot say a bracha. Here the mitzvah is depending on me. I'm going to say a bracha, like anything else that I do, any mitzvah which I do, I choose to do. But here you don't say a bracha. Why is there no bracha on a mitzvah deoraisa? A mitzvah from the Torah to eat.
Maybe it's because the eating on Yom Kippur is like hachana.
You're thinking like the Netziv. The Netziv said it's only a hachana for something else, which is called the fast tomorrow. Mimele on a hechsher mitzvah, on a hachana type of mitzvah, you don't say bracha. That's one of his answers. The first answer that he says, this is only a mitzvah if you actually fasted on the following day. And what if you eat all day long, hidu mitzvah, and then something happened, oines, and you cannot fast the following day. It comes out it wasn't a mitzvah. You just ate like you ate 2 days ago or 3 days ago. So why is it that he asks, then on a fast day, like yesterday, mincha, we say anenu. Why are you not worried the next few hours until the end of the fast you're going to eat, and it comes out it was anenu levatala? Why are you not worried? He says, because there's a few more hours to go, you'll be okay. But when it's me'es le'ez, when there's another 24 hours to go, who knows? You should be choishish, and therefore we're very afraid of a bracha levatala, and we don't say it. We have already 2 answers from the Netziv. The first one, now the second one that I said, he brings in the name of Zdei Chemit, but there are other answers. Shaul Shuvas Arugos HaBoise, he says, we don't find that Chazal instituted a bracha unless the maaseh that you're doing is very apparent that you're doing it for the sake of a mitzvah. In other words, if nobody commanded you, would you take a lulav and start shaking it to the right, to the left, to the up, to the left? Who does that? It's clear that the only reason you're doing it is for the mitzvah. There's a bracha for that. If nobody told you, go and sit in a sukkah, and I'll tell you how to build one, you would never do it. You're sitting in your comfortable living room, air conditioned. Why would you go up to the sukkah? It's so clear that you're doing it for the sake of the mitzvah, is a bracha. The Magen Avraham brings similarly in Shin Chav Gimel regarding toiveling on Shabbos. Can you toivel on Shabbos? It's a mitzvah, you can't do it on Shabbos. So, but I need to use this vessel. What do? I go to the well, and I'm just trying to bring some water out of the well. You're allowed to do this. Since it's not clear that you're doing it for the sake of the mitzvah, even though you really are, there's no bracha. So if you're happy to do this on Shabbos, there's no bracha. Why? Because it's not clear that you're doing it for the sake of the mitzvah. Since you always eat, you're hungry, you always eat, how are you showing me you're doing the mitzvah? In Mela, there's no bracha. Comes the Beis Sha'arim, and he says in a different way. This mitzvah doesn't have a keva, doesn't have a specific time for it. Like davening. Why don't you say, Baruch Ata Hashem asher kidshanu mitzvah v'tzivanu, to daven, lispalel? Because there's no keva. Because in Bachos Chafalev, Rabbi Yochanan says, ulevai, sheyispalel adam kol hayom kulo, would be great if a person davens all day long. When I say this, I must say what Chassam Sofer explained on this. It's a very strange statement of Rabbi Yochanan. Very strange. I wish people would daven all day long. Really? Really? Davening is derabbanon. What a waste. Go learn Torah. Rabbi Yochanan should have said, I wish people would learn the entire day. Talmud Torah keneged kulan mitzvah dioraisa. Davening is only derabbanon. Why did Rabbi Yochanan say it would be so great? Wouldn't it be great? People daven all day long? No, it wouldn't be. You're investing in something which is worth 100,000 when you can invest something which is worth 1 billion? What's wrong with you? Says Chassam Sofer, Rabbi Yochanan spoke about very specific people. Maybe you've seen them. I hope you didn't. In the middle of Chazal Hashatz, they're learning. They're learning in the middle of Tefillah. They're learning in the middle of Leinig. You never see this guy in Shul learning anytime else. Nowhere. In davening, halevai, says Rabbi Yochanan, that this person should daven all the time because the only time he's learning. Ay. Mimele says the Beis Sha'arim, a mitzvah that doesn't have a specific time, there is no bracha for. There's a whole discussion on the 9th of Tisha when you have to eat. How much do you have to eat? Once? Twice? If you eat the entire day, it's a hidur mitzvah. There's no specific time. When am I supposed to do it? For a mitzvah like that, there is no bracha. But the nicest reason, gewaltig, comes the, before we say that, what's the reason for this mitzvah? What do you have to eat? Why? Rabbeinu Yonah, Sha'arei Tshuva, Sha'adale brings 3 reasons. Either because you show you're very happy, my atonement day came, Baruch Hashem, which means you understand you have all kinds of sins and it's time, Baruch Hashem, to erase them. You're very happy because Baruch gives you a freebie. Time to atone for my sins. Or, says Rabbeinu Yonah, on Yom Tov there's a mitzvah to eat. We do that every single Yom Tov. On Yom Kippur, I can't, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to fast. So instead, I'm eating on the day before. Or, says Rabbeinu Yonah, a very practical reason. If you're not going to eat today, you're not going to have koyach to fast tomorrow. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, eat, enjoy yourself, because I want you to have koyach to fast. Following day. Comes, and this is what I meant before, really the nicest, so sweet. The Anaf Yosef on the Ein Yosef says, in the name of the Sfas Emes, not the Chassidish Sfas Emes that we know, a different Sfas Emes. The main part of atonement is actually on the 9th and on the 10th. Why on the 9th and on the 10th? Because Chazal tell us in Yom Pehei Amud Beis, Yom Kippurim does not atone for the mitzvahs ben Adam, for the averos ben Adam lechavero, unless you go to your friend and you ask his forgiveness. If you don't eat, and you remember this on Yom Kippur, oh, I didn't ask him forgiveness. When one doesn't eat, he is cranky. And when you go over to him and says, forgive me for what I did, and you take out the list, I did this and this and this, get out of here! He's not willing to forgive you. But when a person is satiated, and he eats well, and he drinks, he says, no problem, don't worry about it. He brings a pasuk to support it. A pasuk from Yeshaya Nun Ches, pasuk Dalet, the pasuk says, Hen lariv umatza tatzumu. When you fast, there is a fight. Lariv tatzumu. When you're fasting, there are fights. People are upset. People are cranky. They're not willing to forgive. Mimel, the main part of atonement is on the 9th. When you go and you ask forgiveness from each other as a preparation for tomorrow, and it can only be done when people are satiated. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, eat, gesundheit, enjoy yourself, eat and drink. Mimel, you'll be able to forgive each other, and this way you'll be ready for the fast the following day. You know how great this mitzvah is? Mamish unbelievable how great this mitzvah is. Mishnah Bura, in the Simin, Shulchan Aruch Chaim, Simin Taf, Reish Dalet, Seif Kotan Aleph says, V'yesh le'adam lema'et belimudoi. Decrease the amount of time that you're learning on the 9th, be'erev Yom Kippurim, kedei le'echol ve'lishtot. Spend time, eat and drink, to fulfill this mitzvah. Even if that means you have to learn a little less, this mitzvah overrides. Moyedik. So in order to go into Yom Kippur, we have to accept on ourselves Kabbalos Toivos. A good Kabbalah. New Year's resolution. Goyish Ater. We started it. A good Kabbalah. How important is it? Before we answer, I want to ask a question. There's a Gemara. In Shabbos, Daf Lamed Aleph, Amud Aleph, Chazal tell us what we will experience when we go upstairs after at least 120. A series of questions. The second question, Kavata itim la Torah? Did you set specific times for learning? Why kavata? The question really should be, Haim lamadata Torah? Haim asakta b'Torah? Haim hagisa b'Torah? Did you learn? Did you really delve into it? Did you enjoy it? Wasn't it sweet? No. Instead they're asking you, Kavata itim, did you set specific times for Torah? That's what you care about? If I set specific times, what's the chashivus of kvius? Haboisai. After you hear this, you're not going to need dessert for 2 weeks, guaranteed. It's good because within the 2 weeks is Yom Kippur. Can't eat anyways. 3 Gedolei Olam say the following: Adata de Nafshe. They all arrived to it on their own, each one. Who are these Gedolim? Ben Ishchai in the Sefer Ben Yehoyada, Brachos Lamed Amud Beis. Chidushei Harim, and the Pele Yoetz. Pele Yoetz wrote a sefer called Yar Zu Chasidim, his comments on Sefer Chasidim. But that's Sefer Drush and Musa. But it carries more weight because he writes the same thing in his halachic work on Orach Chaim. What is his halachic work of the Pele Yoetz on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim? Chesed La'alofim carries a lot of weight. In Simin Kuf Nun Hey Or HaChaim Seif Aleph, he writes the following. What if you found a piece of meat in the middle of town? You know in your town there are 9 stores that sell kosher meat and 1 store that sells non-kosher. And you find it in the middle of the street. Is this meat kosher or not? Kosher. Why? We go after the Rav. Basar Rav, after the majority. But what if you come back home and you say to your wife, I bought the meat that you wanted. She asks, where did you go? What store? I don't remember. One of the stores there. And there are 9 stores that sell kosher and 1 store that sells non-kosher. What's the halachic status of this meat? Is it kosher? No. Why? Because in Yuma Peidalet Amud Beis in Ksubis Tesvav Amud Aleph we learn Kol Kavua Kemechza Al Mechza Dami. When something is set in its place, we don't go after the majority. We say suddenly the minority elevated itself to 50-50. If I found it in the middle of the street, I go after the majority. But when it's set in its place, I went to it. I went to the store and I picked it from the store. It was set in its place. Kol Kavua, anything which is set in its place, Kemechza Al Mechza Dami, 50-50. It's as if 5 stores still kosher and 5 stores still non-kosher. If you take a Kabbalah on yourself, I'm going to learn a little more this year. An hour a day, extra, 1 day, 1 hour. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't look at you as a person who learns 1 hour a day out of 23. It's kavua. When you accept on Kabbalah on yourself, you don't move it. Kol ruchos sheba'olam lo yazizu. No matter what happens. Nothing changes this Kabbalah that you do accept it on yourself. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you're 50-50. 50% of the time you are a person who sits and learns. Because you have extra 15 minutes, an hour and a half, whatever it is that you have, but you dedicate it to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And you say, this is yours, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is your time. And no matter what, you don't change it. That's why they ask, Kavata, did you set specific times? It doesn't stop there. So now you moved up from 15 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever you have, to 50% of your time you're sitting and learning. We have a new rule. Rosh Hashanah Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph, Chazal Darshan the pasuk about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is very merciful. V'Rav Chesed. What does Rav Chesed mean? Mate Klapei Chesed. When you're exactly equal in the scales, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tilts the scales in your favor. Oh. If you're at 50-50, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, no, you're not. You're 51% of the time you're sitting and learning, and only 49% you're not. So from that Kabbalah, that no matter what, you don't change. Again, it doesn't make a difference what it is, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but it's kavua. You moved up to 50-50. When you're 50-50, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says you're not 50-50. In my book, you're 51%. It doesn't stop there. Nazir men beis amud aleph Chazal say, Ruboy kechuloi. When a person is at 51%, the majority of something, it is viewed as the entire thing. So from that 15 minutes that you have left, only 15 minutes, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm going to dedicate those 50 minutes. You moved up to 50-50. 50-50, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, no, I'm merciful. I'm tilting the scales in your favor. It's 51% of the time you're learning. 51%, Ruba kechulo. The entire day in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's eyes, you're sitting and learning. Gavaldik. Do you need dessert after this? That's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks, I'm kavata itim la. He's giving us a freebie. By the kvius, no matter how long it is, but it's a kvius. No matter what, you don't change it. In the eyes of Ribono Shel Olam, you're a person who sits and learns 24/7 the entire year. Ay, 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 ay. Yamim Toivim, Sukkos included, V'samachta bechagecha. Why? Why do you have to be besimcha? Unbelievable reason. From Sefer HaChinuch. Mitzvah Taf Pei Ches, he explains, our bodies require all kinds of things. You need to eat. You need to go to sleep. It's a physical thing. Your body needs all kinds of things. Guess what? One of the things that your body needs is simcha. So Kodesh Baruch Hu says, you know what? A few times a year we'll pause. I want you to think about the miracles that I performed for you, for your forefathers, took you out of Egypt and everything else. You know what? Be besimcha at that time. Anyways, you need to be besimcha. I'm telling you, you need to eat. You need to sleep. You also need simcha. So instead of partying when I don't want you to party and who knows what you're going to do, party on my festive days. Comes out that you need to be besimcha. So Kodesh Baruch Hu says, so let's make sure the simcha is l'shem shamayim. It's givaldik. So we're in Sukkos. Riddle of the day about Sukkos. How can it be that a person goes into his sukkah on the first day and says Shechianu as he should? On the fourth day, he says Shechianu again. He didn't buy a new fruit that requires a Shechianu or a new garment or a new vessel. He was healthy at the beginning of Sukkos. He is still healthy. He always was healthy. There's no nedarim, there's no pikuach nefesh or anything like that. He's in the same sukkah. Say shechianu again. Fourth day, say shechianu. Can it be? First of all, can it be? Can it be? Can it be? Yes. Now, if you don't mind, share the details. You said it can be, so tell me how.
Fell down? Fell down?
He fell down or before Shlema?
No, the sukkah.
The sukkah fell down, so pick it up. You said shechianu for the yontif, not for the sukkah. Does it make a difference in the first day you invited somewhere else and you said shechianu in their sukkah? You come back to your house the following day, you'll say shechianu again? No. Same sukkah, nothing happened to the sukkah. Gorgeous sukkah, Mehuda, the Chazon Ish built the sukkah. With mami, the baba, everything, all the hidurim. Say shechianu today, say shechianu on the fourth day. You know what? On the fifth day. I was afraid you were going to say that. On the third day.
Again, wait, he says shechianu twice.
Twice.
Because of the sukkah?
In the middle of the yontif of Sukkos, you're going to have to say twice, even though nothing changed. No nadarim, you're always healthy, you're still healthy. Same sukkah, no pikuach nefesh shayla. You didn't acquire something that requires a shechianu. No, for the yontif. But you already said on the first day.
He's not saying for someone else.
I'm sorry?
He's not saying for someone else.
He's by himself. He lives by himself. Can it be?
Didn't have in mind when he said shechianu the first day.
That's terrible.
The binyan sukkah.
Safek brachos le'akel. We're going to say another shechianu? Comes the bikur yankiv?
Yeah, maybe he has a drug that is not kasher for the first.
That's for the four species. I'm saying for the yontif of Sukkos.
Maybe he didn't sleep.
He didn't sleep? Was Hashem you should find if you fall asleep?
That's what his wife gives birth to girls.
It can't be, by the way. Because I said fourth day or the fifth day. It can't be. Chazal say in Sukkah, in Shavuos, if a person says, I'm making a neder, I'm not going to sleep. What happens after 3 days? We give him malchus and say go to sleep, because it's impossible for a person not to sleep more than 3 days. So from the fifth day, it can be, he must have slept in the middle.
Sleep in a sukkah, I say. No.
So what?
First time he sleep in a sukkah.
So says Asher Kishem Zav Tzivan Leishev Basukah. If he holds it, he has to say a bracha for the sitting. For the sleeping. We might say we don't say a bracha for the sleeping.
His wife gives birth to girls.
Mazel tov. But I said he didn't acquire something that even a kid that requires a shechianu. It's for the yontif of Sukkos that he's saying shechianu again. And by the way, he's not married.
It was raining for the first 3 days of Sukkot, and we shechianu on the Chag, but we shechianu on the mitzvah Sukkot yet.
You have a source to say that? The shechianu goes on the Chag. And if you happen to say it inside, I think maybe last year or 2 years ago we asked, what happens if a person, in fact, it rains and he goes inside, should I say shechianu? 15 points. Bikur Yankiv. Bikur Yankiv is a heavyweight. Tosefet Bikurim, Simen Tafresh Lamed Zayin, is a big chiddush, he says. Big chiddush. Al-Katan said in the first day, and then the fourth day, fifth day, whatever it is, he became a gadol. He has to say shechianu, unlike Chanukah. Chanukah, he lit the first day, the whole thing is derabanan, he already did the mitzvah, he does not repeat the shechianu. On the fourth day, he became a gadol in the middle of Chanukah. But Sukkos, he says yes, it's a big chiddush. Not everybody holds like that, but you still get your 15 points. But be careful, I may take them away right now. Here's the next question. Parashas Vayechi, Yaakov Avinu blesses the tribes. Whom does he bless first? Zvulun or Yisachar? No, between Zvulun and Yisachar. Zvulun. In our eyes, who is more important? Zvulun is the money man. Yisachar is the Torah man. Who is more important? Who would we give a bracha to first? Yisachar. Moshe Rabbeinu comes and VeZos HaBeracha and gives the bracha to Zvulun and Yisachar. Who does he give a bracha first? He looked at Yaakov and said, I'm going to be like him. He gives a bracha to Zvulun first. What happened? What went wrong? Why don't you give a bracha first to Yisachar? He sits and learns all day long. Zvulun apparently is already blessed. He has all the money. That's true. So shkoyach Zvulun for supporting Torah. We really appreciate it. But who is suffering and sitting there and learning and trusting in Kodesh Baruch Hu? They share. So why are you blessing Zvulun before Yisachar?
Stop giving his donations.
Says the Chassam Sofer, not to be believed, the reward of Zvulun is actually greater than the reward of Yisachar. Why? He says Yisachar is sitting there and learning Torah. And he's having such a great time. It's the sweetest thing in the world. To be engaged in Torah study is nothing like it. Zvulun, what does he have? He just has to part with the hard-earned money that he made. It's terrible. He has no sweetness of Torah. He doesn't sit and learn. Yisachar does. And therefore, the reward for Zvulun for what he does, which is harder for him to do, he should be rewarded more. Greater reward, you're blessed first. Mind-boggling Chiddush. But it shows the sweetness of Torah. Yisachar is having a great time all year long. He's sitting and enjoying. What is there better in the world to do? Sitting and learning. So he's already blessed. The student has to get a bracha because otherwise he wouldn't do it. What does he have from this? He has to sending him more money and more money. Always very hard to part with your money. Bigger reward.
He also gets exactly half of his suffers Sukkos.
That's the Sukkos of learning Torah.
And before he also learns he's a Kovea, he's a little
Mistama. But if he's working 25 hours a day, he gets up 1 hour earlier. And Yisachar anyways has the sweetness of Torah 24. And the Haazinu already writes that sitting and learning 8 hours or 12 hours straight, that's his language, is nothing to do with learning 1 hour or 2 hours a day. The more time you sit and learn, you become a different person. You almost become like a malach. And you enjoy in ways that you can never experience when you're only learning an hour or 2 hours. You know why that is? I once heard a gewaldig pshat. Why is that? When you're learning an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, your mind is occupied with a lot of other things. So you can't really concentrate only on Torah. So you're enjoying the Torah. Torah is great. But you keep thinking about, I got an appointment in 2 hours. I got to go here. When you're sitting and learning for 8-10 hours, there's less time for other things. It's only Torah in your mind. So you really are able to bring the Torah in, to retain it, and you're at a different level. Altogether, totally different level. And your enjoyment is going to be so much different. If you don't believe me, try it. Try this Shabbos. When no one is working, try it. If I'm wrong, let me know.
Who said that?
The Haazinu.
Ron, is it a greater reward?
For?
Or is it that he needs the bracha?
Some Sofer's languages is a greater word. He explains why. Because he has nothing from this. In other words, it's harder to perform. When you're enjoying something, why should you be rewarded with such a great thing? You're enjoying it. You're loving sitting and learning. So why should you be rewarded with a greater reward for somebody who's having a hard time? The greater the effort, the greater the reward. For Zvun, it's very difficult. Because he's giving his money, not getting anything as if in return, tangible, that he can see.
But that's still physical.
It's a big chiddush because in Psochim Daf Nun it says unlike that. Ayin lo ra asa Elokim zu lasecha. The promise for Talmidei Chachamim in the world to come, nothing like it. But some Sofer, maybe to encourage the Zvuluns to support the Yisasol. I don't know.
Maybe it's a specific reward versus.
Could be. That can make Psochim Nun a little more digestible, or the Chassam Sofer a little more digestible. Let's move to Parshas Bereishis. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created everything in the world in the 6 days of creation, right? All agree? What is there in the world that HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't create? It's here and HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not create it. Can it be? We assume HaKadosh Baruch Hu created everything. Yet, there's one thing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not create, but it's here. Not everybody together. I can't hear when you're yelling at me.
But he still built.
So he gave you the Bechira. He created the idea that you can have free choice. What is there in the world that he did not create? It sounds like a heresy, this question. But I'm quoting to you a Medrash. I'm sorry?
Something like Kinim or something like this, that it's continuous. No?
If you have a source, I'll accept it. Im kabbalah nekabel. Medrash Agadol. Hakol bara HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'olam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created everything in this world. Chutz, except mimidas sheker shelo bra'a. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not create lying. Ela bnei Adam boidim osam milibam. This is an invention of humans. People decide to lie. It's all our invention, nothing to do with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As the Pasuk says in Koheles, Re'eh ze matzati, asher bara Elokim es ha'adam, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us, yashar. Vehem avikshu, cheshboinos rabim, and we have all kinds of cheshboinos. If I'm going to say like this, I'm going to gain this. If I'm going to do that, that's our own invention, our creation, not HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Achidish. You did so well in the previous riddle, and therefore I'll ask you again. Be careful, I have 15 points from before. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created all the animals, right? We all agree, he created all the animals? All the animals. Good. Who was the first animal rights activist? When did PETA start? You know what PETA is? People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. It's the world's largest animal rights organization, right? But when was this founded? about 45 years ago. A little before that. The first animal rights activist in the world.
Is it when the lion swept Noah because he wasn't there at Fina?
Much before Noach. Who told you?
He put flour.
Sefer Ha'ikrim, Rabbi Yosef Elbo, another Rishonim. Listen what he does with this. Unbelievable. Cain brought a korban to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You do get 10 points, don't worry. Cain brought a korban. What did he bring his korban from? Flax, something that grows. Hevel brought a korban. A sheep. Why? Cain said, what are you doing? What are you doing? Bringing a korban from animals? Animals have rights! Hevel said, animals are here to serve us. What are you talking about? This is I'm getting close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Whose korban did HaKadosh Baruch Hu accept? Hevel's. He accepted the animal sacrifice. If we were Cain, what are we supposed to say? Oops, I guess I was wrong. What did Cain say? Wait a second. I know animals have rights just like humans. And if HaKadosh Baruch Hu accepted my brother's korban, he accepted the animal sacrifice. That means if animals have the same rights as humans and you can sacrifice an animal, you can also kill a human. That's why he killed his brother Hevel.
So he was also the first evolutionist.
Who says that?
Sefer Ha'ikrim. Rabbi Yosef Elbo. You see our crooked machshava, what it can take you to. It's not so surprising if you look back 80 years ago with the Nazis. You know with what care they handled the Jewish dogs? A dog! Ooh, ooh, ooh. The humans? If you can kill animals, you can also kill human beings. That was the wrong machshava of Cain. Shh. Pillei ploi. I don't know if you heard about this. I'm not going to tell you exactly where it happened, but it was an old man. Had a very big, it wasn't a house, it was an estate, very, very large yard. And this guy had a hobby, but he thought it's actually his job. He was a junk collector. It's a hoarder. He used to go from garbage can to garbage can, initially only in his neighborhood and then it expanded. And the search went all over town. And he found his favorite piece of junk every single day. He used to go and collect and collect. And initially, it was a nice little pile in his yard. It grew to become a little mound. And then it was a hill. And then it was a gigantic mountain. And a place like this, with so much garbage, invites, it was a very live place. He had some mice, and some rats, and some worms, and flies, and sometimes snakes came to visit. And they didn't stay local in the junkyard. Sometimes they came into his house. And sometimes they also invaded the neighbors' houses. And the neighbors couldn't stand it. So they complained to the city, time after time, and the city did nothing with this. And this went on and on and on. And this mountain of garbage grew 3-story high. Mamish unbelievable. He did this for years. And after many years, finally the city decided to do something about it. They sent an inspector, and he saw, this is terrible, this is very dangerous. They sent him a letter. And this day we're going to come to clean up the place. And the old man said, you don't dare come into my place. Chas v'sholom, over my dead body. Nobody comes into my yard. And if you're going to do this, I'm going to have a heart attack. Nobody can touch my stuff, my belongings. They sent him another letter. And they assessed that they're going to need 20 trucks to get rid of all the junk. And the old man told anyone who just wanted to hear, I'm going to have a heart attack if they come. Nobody can come into my place. But they came. They came with 20 big trucks. The old man stands at the gate and he says, nobody comes here. Nobody comes in here. He stumps his feet. He's yelling. And they tried politely to move him away. He's not moving. They called the police. They took him away. The whole project took 3 days. They removed all the garbage, but the city was very nice. They actually planted some trees there, grass. They put up a couple of benches and a watering system. The place looked gorgeous. After they finished the whole project, they brought him back into his house. This was all over the papers. Everybody knew about this. A month later, there was a guy who heard about this. And he wanted to see what happened to this old man. He was threatening, I'm going to have a heart attack. Let's see what happened to him. So he goes over to that neighborhood, and he gets close to his house, and he sees the guy, the old man, is sitting on a bench, breathing fresh air. He looks like he's enjoying himself. So he comes over and says, excuse me, can I ask you a question? He says, yeah. A month ago, you threatened that you're going to have a heart attack. How did you survive this? It's probably very difficult. And the old man says to him, are you kidding me? I feel like I was reborn. This is unbelievable. I feel like I'm 30 years younger. Do you know, I never knew that the sun rises at 5 a.m. I thought it rises at 10 a.m. Because of the pile of garbage here, I never saw the sun until 10 a.m. I always used to suffer from shortness of breath. How much dust there was here because of all the garbage? 30 years I've been collecting. Now, I'm fresh air. You know how many animals were here? Now there's not even one ant. It's gewaldig, it's unbelievable. Mamish, I feel like I have new life. Rabbi said, now is the time to do tshuva. We all have a pile of garbage that we've been collecting for a long time. And we are convinced, if I get rid of this, my life will be over. I cannot live without it. I cannot live without it. Tell me, doesn't the old man know that there's so many animals there? He didn't know that the pile of garbage blocks the sun and that's why you don't see it until 10 o'clock in the morning? He doesn't know that it causes you shortness of breath? What's wrong with him? The answer is when you're living inside the garbage, you're not aware of it. Only when you detach and remove yourself from the garbage, you realize, wow, my life was one big pile of garbage. And we keep convincing ourselves that we're tied up with this stuff. And the pastor says, Lev yodea maras nafsho. The pastor says, everybody knows what he has to fix. There's no general directives here. Everybody knows what he needs to remove. That garbage that he clings onto, that he has to remove. And when we do, we'll suddenly feel a breath of fresh air. Wow. Have energy. I'm no longer connected with those shackles of the Yetzer Hara. I broke free. And that's the greatest feeling in the world. But as long as you're inside the garbage, you think this is it. I cannot separate from this. It's been so many years. This is part of me. Life will be over. Life will just start. We will feel so much new energy. We will feel that we finally are released from being slaves to the Yetzer Hara. We will see new sun that we had no idea that existed. We will feel such fresh air that it's kedai to try. And this connects to what we said yesterday. In Yeshaya Nun Hey Pasuk Zayin, which is a haftarah for a tiny tzibur, and it's also a pasuk we keep saying on Yom Kippur. The pasuk says, Ya'azov Rasha Darkoi, Ve'ish Aven Machshevoisav, should leave our wrong ways. Ve'yashov El Hashem, Ve'yerachamoi. Did I say this pasuk right? Did I say this pasuk right? What did I miss? V'yachamehu. Where'd you get by that extra hey? Grammatically, you don't need it. I think it makes more sense the way I'm saying it. Again. Ya'azov rasha darkoi. Ve'ish aven machshevoisav. Leave your wrong ways and machshavos. Ve'yashov el Hashem. Return to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ve'yerachamon. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will have mercy on you. Ve'yerachamon. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will have mercy on you. What did you say? Ve'yerachamehu. What did you gain by that extra hay? You know, ink is kind of expensive these days. Comes the Likutei Torah. And the Baal Shem Tov alludes to it as well. V'yirachamehu, that means you have to have rachamim over that hay. What is that hay? That's the neshama that has 5 names that is in you, which is a chelek eloika mimal. By returning to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, by doing tshuva, you exhibit rachamim upon HaKadosh Baruch Hu about your chelek eloika mimal. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to return. We are all godly. We have a chelek eloika mimal in us. Have pity over that chelek eloika mimal and do tshuva. Show rachamim over HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. Last thing. Aseres Yemei Tshuva. We keep saying, Zocheinu lechaim, melech chafetz b'chaim. Remember us to life. You king who chooses life. You desire us to live, so remember us to life. Vekosveinu, b'sefer hachaim. You know why? No, not for me. Lemancha Elokim chaim, for you. Really? Lemancha, for you. What about you? You don't want life? No, it's for you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You want to tell him what he wants? Again. Zochenu lechaim melech hafetz b'chaim. Remember us to life. Because you are a king that desires life. Vekosveinu, I want you to be inscribed. B'sefer hachaim. In the book of life. Lemancha Elokim chaim. Not for me, for you. Who are you kidding? Many interpretations. Maybe the best one. It's not pshat, but it's emes le'amita. Zocheinu lechai melech hafez b'chaim. Remember us to life, king who desires life. We normally read it v'kosveinu b'sefer hachaim, and inscribe it in the book of life. No! V'kosveinu b'sefer, period. Write us in a sefer. Oh, you're asking what type of sefer I'd like to be written in? I'll tell you. Every book has a cover. On the cover of every sefer, there's a title. This sefer is called Sidur Darkei Avos Hashalem. 4 words. Kodesh Baruch Hu, I also want to be written in a book. You know what the title that my book bears? Hachayim lemancha Elokim Chaim. Those who live for your sake, Ribono Shel Olam. Allow me to have a life which is dedicated to your service. A life of Mesirus Nefesh. V'kozvenu b'sefer, period. I want to be inscribed in a book. The book that says, I lived for you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Some people live for themselves. Some people have a combination. They live for themselves, but also they do for others. They do for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I don't want that type of life. When I leave this place, on the sefer that I wrote for myself, from day one till the day I depart, the title should say, Hachaim lemancha Elokim Chaim. Those who lived for you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for your sake. That's the sefer that I would be. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, give me koyach. Give me koyach to be able, in fact, to live a life dedicated to your service. And then in Mitzvah Hashem, I will be written in the book of life, because that's exactly what HaKadosh Baruch Hu desires us to do. I just want to end, as I said before, everybody's invited for the annual Hoshana Rabbah Shir, an all-nighter Shir from 11:30 p.m. until Netz, which is 6 hours and change, in Bnei Yeshivas at the end of Nachal Noam. We're starting at 11:30 with a ton of food, cholent and cakes and whatnot. Whatever you want, it's going to be there. Challenging riddles bearing serious monetary prizes and more prizes, serious monetary prizes. Inspiring stories, challenging halachic cases, as we sometimes present here. A lot of fun. Oodles of fun in the sukkah, so you can eat the entire night, up to the point they're not allowed to eat anymore.
Where?
In the end of Nachal Noam, in Bnei Yeshivas Shul, in the yard over there, we have a big sukkah, in Mirtzei Hashem. The next shir we will have is the 2nd of Cheshvan. Beis Cheshvan, Friday, in Mirtzei Hashem, for Parshas Noach. I want to wish everyone who's here a Gmar Chasima Toiva, a year full of heavenly blessings, abundance in both Ruchnius and in Gashmius, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mirtzei Hashem should grant all your heart wishes. Should only see bracha ve'atzlacha, Yeshua, Parnasa, and Mirtzei Hashem geulas oilam bekarov b'yameinu. Achenu kol Beis Yisrael nesuim b'tzar ובשביה, האוהבים דימן בים ובין ביבשה. המקום ירחם עליהם ויוצאים מצר ולברכה ומפנו לא ירא. ומשיר בוד לגאולה אשתו בעגלה ובזמן קורי ונאמר אמן.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.